Hey guys, I hope you're well. Um, okay, this lighting is bad, but today's video is gonna be for those who are going or planning to do A-level English literature next year. So those who have finished year 11 and are going into year 12 next year and are planning doing A-level English literature. I've said that twice now. So this is going to be saying eight ways how the course differs from the 8 ways how the course differs from GCSE to A level, and I'm also going to be giving 10 ways to prepare over the summer. So before you start the course, I'm going to do a video some point in the summer, like top tips for A level English literature, but this one is for those who are going into year 12 and how you can prepare over the summer, and just what's key differences between A level and GCSE and A level. The A level. So with the A level I'm talking about, it should be general, so whatever exam board you're doing, but it's most specific to OCR, but it should apply to all of the exam boards. So I'll get straight into it. So one of the main things, so the first main difference between A level and GCSE and A level is that you study more texts and you study them in more depth. So at GCSE, I think I studied 4 texts and then poems. I think, or am I very mistaken? Or maybe it was free text and poem. But so I studied. Whereas at A level, I studied 8 in depth, but then I also I read more. So like, because for one of the topics, which was Gothic, you are also meant to read books beyond the ones that you studied in class. So then you could reference them for your answer, which I'll actually which I'll get into later. But also I feel like you had to know them much more than it at GCSE. However, not in the same way, which I'll also get into. Like I knew them a lot more, but more context wise and more how they related to the genre than I did at GCSE. Where at GCSE the main thing I knew was the plot, and how it linked to context and how it linked to like how like the writer's intention and techniques, etc. I don't actually remember too much about GCSE because that was 2 years ago. Though I did work incredibly hard for it. I got my 9 in it, which is very nice. But anyway, uh, difference number 2. So at GCSE, pretty much all of the questions that you got for each text were the same. So it was something along the lines with, how does the author / playwright / poet present blah 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 in this text, or something like that. Or it would be asking you to compare, and you'd need like pretty much the same thing. So like good writing skills, context, language analysis, how it links to the themes in the books, and sometimes comparison. However, at A level this is very different. Every question has a different structure. So, for example, for my papers, there were two questions on the Tempest. One was an extract analysis, and 50% of the marks were for understanding of the text and like the way you wrote the essay, which was AO1, and the other 50% went to language analysis. However, the next question, there were no marks for language analysis, and in fact, all of the other marks of the 50% went to AO5, which I will get back into to AO5 in the next point. However, then when I went to the like Gothic comparison question, and in neither of those questions there were any marks for context. However, in the Gothic comparison question, there was 50% of the marks out of 30 marks were for context, which was much more than at GCSE, where like 10% of the marks went to context. So we needed to know it much more in depth, and how to not just knowing the context, but how to link it, and not just historical context, but context of the genre as well, which I'll get into later again. And then the next question, which was the Gothic oh, I can't speak, the Gothic extract analysis, in the Gothic comparison, there were no marks for language analysis, but in the Gothic extract analysis, 75% of the marks went to language analysis. So you can see, like, you need to know what the questions are looking for, which goes into my next point, which is about different essay writing skills. Obviously, the essays that you write at GCSE are not going to be the same as the ones that you wrote for in A-level. Not just because you're gonna like develop your writing and like develop your like sophistication and the way you write, but also because they're gonna be asking different things. Like as I've said, each question is asking for different things. They're not asking the same. Some of the questions like different length for like for OCR, two of the questions were 15 marks, but then all of the other questions were 30 marks. Um, and so it was really important, like that you knew what the questions were looking for. Because if I had put in a lot of context in my Tempest questions, for example, but it would have just been a waste of time because that's not what they were looking for. I did it in some of them reference context, but they were in a way that they answered the other AOs. So which I will also get into later. And this point, so the fourth difference is that you need more extra reading. And I don't just mean reading of the genre and reading of the text, but I mean like critical reading. And by critical reading, I mean what other people think of it, like what critics think of it. And this in OCR, this is called AO5. I think that the other examples also call it AO5, but no, but anyway, you know how in GCSE one of the ways that you could get top marks was doing an alternate interpretation. So this quote can mean this. It could also mean in A level this has a whole different AO, but it's not just saying this could mean this, but this could also mean that. It not only includes readings from different sources, so from a historical background, from a historical point of view, this could be seen as this. The audience in the 18th century would have viewed it as this. However, a modern audience would view it as this. But a feminist reading could conclude this. A Marxist reading could conclude this. A psychological reading, and even more specific, a Freudian reading could see this. But also, like specific viewpoints, like critics, like I actually can't think of any critics right now, but if you do classics like Mary Beard, she would be considered a critic. Even like just like celebrity critics, I'm pretty sure like Stephen Fry, maybe because actually I'm not sure if that's a good example, but Stephen Fry like is a legend, but I'm not sure if he's a good example. But you can, but often you have to like quote them, or you don't have to quote them, but you have to paraphrase them and include them in your essays. So then like, and that is considered like AO5, like I can't speak, I'm sorry, it's like 3 a.m. And another way is also adaptations. So in GCSE, often like like if you're learning Macbeth, they would show you a production of Macbeth, and that would help you more know the story, and it would be good for revision because it would help you know the story, but it also help you see how it was acted out, so you knew it more than just reading lines of a script. However, in A level, it is much more important because one of the main things that I learned at A level is that pretty much everything is down to interpretation. Like a line from a character, one production could have it as like shouting, and another production could portray it as sadness, and another production could portray it as confusion. And you look beyond that. Like you might say, in this production, X and X character says the line to the audience. However, in the later production, the character says this line to another character. This is because this was portrayed at a later time. Like you look much more into it, and didn't do a really good job explaining it, but I am going to I'm gonna do a video addressing different AOs for English literature. Though I did do a video explaining the exam breakdown for A-level OCR English literature, and at the beginning I talked about the AOs. So I'll put the link below to that, and that gets into my and that gets into my next point, which is about coursework. The ironic thing was that at the beginning of year 12, all my teachers are like, "Oh, at GCSE you had loads of coursework, but now all of your exams, nearly all of your exams are going to be exams, not coursework." But it was really ironic because I had more coursework in A level than I did at GCSE, and this was because in English literature GCSE there's no coursework, but in English literature A level there is coursework. It is small percent, like it's not like half, it's not like 50%, it's only 20%, but it's still important. For OCR it's 2 essays, but one is weighted more than the other. And you need to and you do these in class, and you do them in class, like you do, and it is a very it is a different experience, like especially if you haven't done coursework at GCSE, because you need to know how to manage your time, and how to look over it, and how to ask your teachers for help in a way that they can help you, but then they don't also write the essay for you, or like they give you too much help. So you will learn those skills. I know that isn't what I said wasn't actually very helpful, but like you will learn those skills, but that is something to be aware of. And something that I forgot to include is that again, you look beyond the text. You don't just read the text and then link it back to a lot of context. Like you look at the genre in general. Like for Gothic, we studied 2 Gothic books, but we studied the Gothic in general. Like what common tropes are in the Gothic, what common tropes are in the earlier Gothic books, and then also the later Gothic books, and how do they link to context. Like earlier Gothic books included a lot of the supernatural, and for example, one thing I remember that is that women in the Gothic often found themselves in situations where they were trapped, and there was no easy way out. But then as the Gothic progressed, like as it went through time, as it went from like the 17th century, or maybe not the 17th century, but like the 18th century to like the 20th century, the women tended to find themselves more and more in trouble because of their own wrongdoings. And this was because many playwrights felt that women were getting out of their place. Their words, not mine. Their words, not mine. They were sexist, not me. They felt that women were getting out of their place. So then they wrote this to like portray the consequences, and to restore the ideal woman, which is very, very like patriarchal and disgusting, but it's also really interesting. And this is just a way how you don't just study books, you study like the world like around these books, and plays and poems. And have I included everything? And I've said this, and I actually said this before, but one of the main things that everyone says is that is one of the main differences, that there is a lot of contextual and critical material. Like you don't just read the revision guide, you look at what other critics think of the text, and you like compare them, like and it is a really, really important skill for A-level. And I've realized I'm rambling, so I'm going to get on to the next part of the video, which is 10 ways you can prepare. So, number 1, read the text. So, like, I know this sounds like, it is your summer, and you deserve 100% to enjoy it, especially if you're watching this in 2020, and, like, we've been going through a pandemic, we still are, which is fun. So especially in 2020, so I pray if you're watching this in 2021, I pray you're not going through another pandemic or the same pandemic. I hope it's over. But reading the books not only can be a way to pass the time, but it is really, really useful, because many people think, and I kind of agree, that the more you read the text, the much more you understand it, especially if the first time you read them is before you start the course. So then you kind of read them for fun. Not for fun, but like you read it to enjoy it. You don't have to concentrate on the plot a lot. You don't have to concentrate on all of the AOs, because you'll be taught those at the beginning, you won't just like they won't just like throw you at the deep end and be like, haha, like you have to figure out what to do. Like your teachers will teach you, hopefully. So if you've used this time to even just read one, it will be really useful. Like, and what I would recommend is like choose one that you will enjoy. Um, because then you're more likely to enjoy it. That doesn't make sense, but like since you're gonna enjoy it, you're more likely to engage in it. You're more likely to finish it. And whereas if you just choose like the book, like just ran, if you choose to like, for example, if you do English literature, you have to do 8 books. If you decide to read all 8 books, and in the end you just don't read any because it's just too much, then that's counterproductive. So choose one that you like. Maybe if you've applied to like different schools, like I applied to 23 sixth forms, so I had a lot of summer homework. Maybe like see if there's a book or a play that that different schools have in common and choose it. Or maybe you'll see that your school is studying the Gothic, you might not want to read the Gothic books that they've supplied you yet, but you want to read other Gothic novels. That would be really, really great. And you don't even have to read them. Even just like looking up the plots, learning about the texts, and watching productions as well. Not only will that like tell you the story, but also like prepare you for what I told you about, like AO5, like different interpretations. Like maybe watch one adaptation of the text and then watch like I don't know, a stage production from a few years ago, then watch like the film production from like I don't know, the same year. And then you can compare them, and then when you read the book either in class or in the summer, you can compare to how they are different and how they are similar, and then you can look at you can zoom in on the similarities, and you use that for your argument in your essays. And also just read around the subject, like read essays, read articles. Like that will just not only will like help your knowledge, but also just really prepare you for the A level itself, like where you'll be doing this like not all the time, but like you'll be doing this for a large chunk of the course, and the more you do it, the better. Like the more you know about it, the better you'll do in your exams, the more you'll have to talk about. Like just reading around, watching productions, reading what people say, just reading articles, reading critical articles, watching lectures, etc. just really, really helps. And one thing I actually forgot to mention was expanding your vocabulary. Like expanding your vocabulary is really, really useful, not just for English literature, but pretty much every subject, and just like life in general. Like you don't need to know every single word in the dictionary, but just the more you know, the better, because learning is very important and it's very good for your brain and for life in general. But especially like for English literature, so there were times when I got an essay question and I wouldn't have been able to answer it because I didn't know what some of the what some of the words in the essay was, like labyrinth. I didn't know what that was, and I got an essay question on it. And thankfully, like I chose the other question because there was a choice of 2, but no, of 3, but that was why it's really important to learn vocabulary. There are loads and loads of things you can do. Like if you're reading, like just reading in general, and you see a word you don't know, like highlight it, look it up, maybe do like some flashcards, maybe like post-it notes about it around the house. And there is also this really good website called Free Rice, which not only helps you with your vocabulary, but also every answer you get right, it gives a teeny tiny bit of rice to people in countries that don't have a lot of food. Like it's a charity. It's like Click to Donate. Like since there are ads on this website, you going there and playing the vocabulary game will generate some money which will be used to give food to those who need it, which is really, really important, especially in a pandemic. It is really, really important. And so, like, not only will you learn and improve your vocabulary and your life, but you'll also be helping other people. So I am going to put that down below. And another way you can do it, or can prepare, which is a really, really important one, I think, is read over your essays, like, just so, like, through the summer, like, your practice essays that you've written, like, just so then you can kind of, like, remind yourself like of your skills. Otherwise, like, so then when you come in when you come back to school, you're not just like shit. Like I have so much. I've forgotten all my essay writing skills. Like obviously, like the essay writing skills that you'll have at A level will be different. But just like reading through your essays, it will kind of not only will like give you a refresher of like writing essays and writing academically and writing about English literature, but also just make you more confident. It won't make you think that you've forgotten everything. It won't make you think that you're not as smart for the course. It'll give you confidence. But also reading essays, like critical essays, not just like critical articles, but like also like A level essays. Like if you just type in like A level English literature essays, if you go on the OCR or AQA etc. website, they'll have like specimen papers and specimen essays. Just reading those not only will help your skills, but it'll just kind of tell you what you need to know. Like it'll tell you the quality of the essays and how they're written. Like I'm not suggesting that you spend hours and hours like analyzing it, because you don't need to. Like your teachers will help you with that later on, but just reading it will help you, and it'll just give you some confidence, which like you will really appreciate, because if you come into an A level course with confidence, like you're more willing to learn and you're not stressing. Whereas if you like you're thinking, oh crap, I'm not good enough, I don't know what to do, I should quit this course. It won't like you won't think you're good enough, and you're less likely to improve. But sometimes you do pick the wrong course, and sometimes you pick the course that's not right for you, and that's okay. Like we're all humans, we all make mistakes, but not even about mistakes. Sometimes just A levels are very, very different from GCSE, and we don't like them, and that's completely okay to change your mind. Like even like 2 years ago, like even a year and a half ago, I thought I was going to study classics at university, and now I'm studying ancient languages. Hopefully, actually, okay, that doesn't sound that different. But like, I didn't think that I would be studying specific ancient languages. Alright. So what I suggest you do is like, ask your future teachers like what exam board are we, and then like look at the specification, look at the like exam questions. If you can, oh crap, my phone's running out of battery. If you can, speak to people who have done the course and like see what they think. Like go on, like look online what people are saying about the A level English literature course, and just see if it's for you. Like obviously, like it might not give you 100% the good right idea. Like maybe they'll say it's horrible, and you'll love it, or maybe they'll say it's lovely, and lovely, or you'll hate it, or but it'll probably be somewhere in the middle. Because we all love and hate English literature at the same time, us English literature students. Though I'm not sure if actually I am one anymore, because I'm no, because I'm not studying it anymore. And also just like writing in general, like will really help. Like I don't know why, but like whenever like I'm not writing, like when I say writing I mean physically like writing. Like it could, I'm not like not like an essay, just like it could just be like a pile of crap. I could just be writing essay. Like if I haven't written physically for a long time, my handwriting gets awful, and then also my hand like starts hurting because I'm not used to it. So like try to write over the summer. Maybe you can write a diary, a journal, some poems, even some like letters and postcards to post to other people, which will make them very happy. So and like bring a smile to your face, and like it'll be fun hearing back when they've received it and maybe getting some postcards back. So I 100% recommend that. Um and and ugh. And then also just like linking back to what I said, just like also obviously this year is very different because exams were cancelled, but like look back at how you revised, look back at how you studied English literature, and try to not like forget it. Not like I'm not saying don't revise the knowledge that you already know. Like you, that's not what I'm saying. I mean like remember how you learned, because then that will like if at GCSE leading up to like say mocks or leading up to GCSE exams that didn't happen, you used flashcards, continue doing that. Like keep that in mind, and then try doing it next year, and then you might see that like it doesn't work at A level, and that is okay, like because they are very different, and also we change as humans, so that might not work. So don't be afraid about making mistakes. I don't know what piece of advice was that. That was like 3 pieces of advice put into one. And one last piece of advice learn about the general. Like if you find out you're learning about Gothic, read about the Gothic. It's very, very interesting. If you're learning about like women in literature, read about women in literature. And even like if you're like going for OCR, like, or say like a website like OCR, and you're like, oh my gosh, one of the topics is dystopia, and you're like, oh no, we haven't, like, we're not studying dystopia. Look at it anyway. Like if you're interested in it, it'll be not only will it be useful because it'll keep your mind busy, and it'll just make you have a it'll make you have a passion for English literature, but it'll just like it's interesting. It'll make you happy. If it doesn't make you happy, then stop. But um, just do just like even just being interested in the subject, and also it'll be really useful if, say, for example, you want to study English literature at A level. I mean, at university or something related. You can write it in your personal statement, or even a job application, or maybe not. Okay, I'm rambling. It is 4 a.m. in the morning, but I was like, I put off making this video because I was scared it wouldn't be perfect like this. So that's why it took so long. So this is probably my longest video on here. Actually, maybe not. So, I hope I hope this video has been useful. Thank you very, very much for watching, and have an amazing day. And if you are doing English literature, I hope these tips have helped you, and I hope you enjoy the course 100%. I had like a very, very mixed ride in English literature, but I don't regret it. I found it really, really interesting. If not a little bit very, very stressful, but I will really miss English literature. It's like a love-hate relationship, but yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you are well.